Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to a new video. As you might already know, I've been using Fujifilm gear for several years now, and I primarily use Fuji zoom lenses for my landscape photography. For the first few years in my photography journey as a portrait photographer, I probably used the 35 and 50mm fixed lens more than any other zoom lens. In fact, when I travel or for personal work, I love experimenting with different lenses and cameras like old vintage lenses, 35mm or medium format film cameras. Since I'm not just interested in landscape photography but photography in general, I couldn't resist when TTArtisan reached out to me to test the new 35mm 1.4 lens. So I just want to start this video off by saying thank you to TTArtisan for sponsoring this video and sending this lens over to me so that I can make this video for you. They did send this to me for free, but they are not paying for this review. They don't get input on this video or anything like that. So this is my opinion about the product. And okay, let's dive into the specs of this tiny little lens. This 35mm lens falls within the low budget prime lenses with a price tag of around 80 bucks. So it's pretty cheap, especially if compared with the Fuji 35mm 1.4, which costs about $600. The lens fits well in a great package, and when you open the box you will first see the installation instructions. Then in a separate small box they provide the lens hood that screws on and an extra lens cap that honestly doesn't seem to work securely, and it falls off quite easily. I much prefer the regular metal lens cap. It's easy to screw on and in my opinion it's way more secure. It's an all metal prime lens for APS-C camera system with an equivalent full frame focal length of around 52mm. It comes with different mounts like Sony, Canon and so on. It's extremely lightweight, around 180 grams, so almost identical to the Fujifilm equivalent. A 39mm filter thread. It's all manual, old school focusing with a minimum focal distance of 0.28 meters. The lens is very compact and the build quality is absolutely great. I do love the look and the style. It has many similarities with one of my vintage film cameras, the Soviet Fed 3, which has a 52mm f2.8 fixed lens. The TTArtisan 35 pairs wonderfully with the X-T4, but also with the smaller X-T30, giving you a super portable and compact combo and really fun to use. The lens extends in length when focusing. It's built with 7 elements in 6 groups, but it doesn't feature aspherical elements like high-end Fuji lenses. It has the aperture ring that's in the front that allows you to adjust the aperture value from f1.4 to f16. The TTArtisan 35mm doesn't have a regular sequence of aperture. It jumps from f8 to f16, so you don't get the f11. Having said that, in terms of user experience and usability, which I think is an extremely important aspect, the lens feels very solid. The user experience is great, even though manual focusing is not for everyone and can be tricky for some people. However, mirrorless cameras have the wonderful focus peaking feature that helps the accuracy in getting the subject in focus. Something that annoys me is the focus ring placed in the back of the lens and the aperture ring in the front. I find it less convenient than having it in the front like the vast majority of the manual focus lenses. Here we have a vintage Canon FD lens, and on this one you have the aperture ring in the back and a wider and nice focus ring on the front of the lens. Much easier to use. Even though the focus ring is quite narrow for my hands, it's smooth to rotate with some gentle and comfortable friction. So if I've got big fingers, you might not be totally happy handling it. Then we have the aperture ring that just feels stunning. Mechanically, the click stops feel very nice and precise. Actually, they feel surprisingly nice and tactile. Even though it's not a clickless lens, so it's not suitable to change the aperture while filming, the video recording experience with this lens is amazing, especially if used with the X-T4, which provides an amazing in-body image stabilization. Bear in mind that the lens doesn't have the f11 aperture, but I personally don't mind about the missing stop. Another aspect to point out, something film photographers are used to that, because this is a contactless manual lens, no electronic data is exchanged between the lens and the camera body. So you just need to do a visual check on the lens before shooting. Not a big deal. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with the design and mechanics of this little tiny lens. Let me know in the comment below if you are using third-party lenses with your camera and maybe which one is your favorite. But before going any further, if you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. I genuinely appreciate you for being here and watching this video. Thank you. Now let's have a look at the image quality. Holy moly, this TTArtisan 35 is incredibly sharp. I don't know the Fujifilm 35mm f1.4 to make a straight comparison, but just for the sake of the video, I put side by side the TTArtisan with my Fuji 16-55 zoomed at the same 35mm focal length, and the sharpness looks stunning. I know the TTArtisan is a fixed lens and the other one is a zoom lens, but you know, we are talking about an 80-bucks lens compared with a high-end red label zoom lens. I suspected that f1.4 is fairly sharp, but it sharpens up quite a lot just by closing the aperture to f2 with top performance at f2.8 and f5.6. At f8 it's good without too much diffractions. Corners are softer until about f4, but are not that bad. I gotta tell you, it's not 100% perfect, but the overall sharpness of this lens is not bad at all. And this is a very good result for such a cheap lens. Vignetting is very visible at f1.4, but is greatly decreased at f2 and f2.8, where at f4 it's almost gone. You have also some barrel distortion that can be easily fixed in post with Capture One or Lightroom. The overall contrast is extremely good and the colors are pretty vivid. Chromatic aberration is not as good as my Fuji lenses, especially at the maximum f1.4 aperture. You can fix that up in post, sure. Since Capture One doesn't have a profile for this specific lens, I tried correcting the chromatic aberration using the analyze function in the lens correction module, but the results are still not good. So I opened the same file in Lightroom and it seems to be more effective in correcting the chromatic aberration, keeping it at a much lower level. Anyway, chromatic aberration is not quite good on this lens, so be aware of that. As you can see from these images, the lens also struggles quite a lot with flare. The flare is not well controlled throughout the different apertures, but you can use it to your advantage to create maybe some artistic effects. The bokeh looks quite nice at a closer distance, soft and smooth. It really depends on the distance of the objects and how busy is the background. In some situations, you do get a bit of swirl effect with really detailed backgrounds. Anyway, the overall result is quite pleasing. Well, the TTArtisan 35 has its personality, but it certainly doesn't have that sort of, let's say, a 3D pop character like some Fuji fixed lenses, or for example the Sigma 35 or 50mm art series. That is something I miss a lot since I switched from Canon to Fuji. Of course, the TTArtisan doesn't want to compete with this kind of lenses. The market segments they aim for is a bit different, so I think it's not fair to compare them. I strongly believe that it's nice to have the opportunity to shoot with high-end lenses to tell a story, but a personal piece of advice I can give you is don't let the gear in the way of you creating these stories. Understand basically the fundamentals of the focal length and stuff like that. An expensive lens doesn't change or improve your abilities in storytelling. For what you pay, the TTArtisan 35 1.4 is, in my opinion, a lovely product. Well built, lightweight, great usability, a really fun lens to use, and as with my film cameras, I really enjoy the process of focusing on the subject. Of course, it has its weaknesses. Quite strong vignetting at f1.4 and a bit of distortions. Sharpness in the corners is quite soft, chromatic aberration and flare are not quite good and they can be improved. And at a slightly higher price, some competitors provide an internal AF focus system. For just 80 bucks, if you are on a budget of you just simply want to start exploring the world of prime lenses, I can definitely recommend this lens to anyone looking for a nice, well-built and lightweight manual focus prime lens for travel, portraits and street photography. I'm not sure if I end up using it for my landscape photography, probably not, but I will surely use it for portraits and travel. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you want to buy one of these, check out my link in the description below. If you do so, it helps support this channel in producing more videos like this. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It will be really awesome. Okay, that's it for me today, guys. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!